Oh, God.
Hey, everyone. We're so excited you're here with us. Answers with Experts. This is October 13th. Many of you will be watching live. Some of you will be watching recorded. And either way, we're really happy to have you here. Today, we've got two great guests who I'm super excited to introduce you. And we're going to be really looking at the issues related to how do we help families who are trying to figure out how to help dad or mom who has dementia move into a memory care community. That's one of the biggest questions we get. So we're going to deal with that today. So hang tight and we're going to get started. So I'm super excited to introduce two of my good friends and colleagues, Audra Jones and Rachel Jefferson. So Audra has been leading teams of care partners for over 30 years. Audra guided the care of people living both with disabilities and also people living with dementia. She now trains the team of trainers who equips 2,200 carers across America. Rachel Jefferson, she is a registered nurse, and she has over 15 years of experience caring for elders as both a nurse and a trainer of nurses throughout all of Texas. She is passionate and she equips others to care with excellence. So I'm super excited to have you two here today because you've been in the trenches. You are not academics who just sit in college reading books and peer-reviewed journals and telling the world what to do. You actually lived this. So you've been there, done that. Now, real quick, Audra, would you just tell us why the heck you work with people with dementia? Why? You could be doing so many things. What's unique about that for you?
Well, first, I'm trying to figure out I have 30 years of experience when I'm only 21. I just like helping people. I came into the senior housing industry, I would say by chance, after working with people with disabilities. I had a supervisor who was working in the industry, and I went to visit her job, and I just fell in love with working with seniors. I always just been one to be able to want to help people the best that I can. And especially for me and my family, they always consider me the caretaker of everybody. And so if I could just give that back outside of my family, which eventually all of the residents become our family. So just love working with people.
And how about you, Rachel? You could be nursing, babies right now. Why are you nursing elders who have dementia? What's attractive to you about this field?
As a nurse, you always kind of find that niche where you're going to be at, and that's where you thrive. I think mine is more of a personal story, though. I had my grandmother that I took care of, and we went through some of the strangest situations, had no idea what was going on. As the process went on, we ended up finding out it was dementia. And so that kind of triggered me to kind of learn a little bit more about it. And so I started out in the memory care unit, and then I just continued as that going. So.
Wow. Well, I'm super glad you're here. For all of you in the audience, so please go ahead and chat questions in today. We'll try to take them as we can. If you are watching this recorded, the best way to get in touch with us is to text #answers to this phone number. This is a phone number that I manage, but you can text me anytime of day or night because it's a special system that doesn't wake me up at night. So go ahead and text me with your questions for future episodes. If you're watching this recorded, if you're live, put it in the chat. All right, let's start with our first question. So we're dealing with 6 questions that we get asked all the time, or even if we're not asked point blank, families are really trying to know that with their questions. So the first one is a really hard one. Families ask us, how do I tell mom it's time for her to move to a memory care community, right? We've figured out it's the right thing. She can't live at home safely. How do I break the news to her? This is one of the biggest, most challenging questions families face. What do you two advise?
Okay, well, first of all, I need for people to understand that this decision they have made is a decision to increase their family or their loved one's quality of care. So they have to be able to manage their emotions when it comes to this. A lot of times it's really going to be just to understand where your loved one is at in that process and how they're going to process the information that you're going to tell them, either we're going to move or what's going on with them. I always recommend you don't tell them that you need more help because they don't understand that. They I'm fine. I don't need this. It's just how you handle the situation. There may be times when you may have to have what I call therapeutic lies. where you may have to say, hey, we've got something going on with the house. We've got to fix it up. But while they're fixing the house, I am going to move you into a location with all your favorite things until they finish the house. So it really depends on where your loved one is and how you're going to help them process this whole move in my aspect. So.
Right. And I absolutely agree with Rachel that knowing where they are in the process, oftentimes it's hard for us because we switch roles. It's now we've become the parent in a sense. And in the situation in which we're moving our parents in, we're now telling them what we feel like needs to happen. And so it also goes on with the relationship that you have with your parent. If you have been the type that you guys always talk and been very honest, then you don't need to change that up. Again, what Rachel said, there may be situations, therapeutic lives, or things that you may have to tell to get them to help them understand, I should say. But definitely being very honest with them. And again, it depends on where they are in the disease process. If it's in the very beginning, then having that conversation. Of course, you can solicit their doctor to help, and or the team of where you're moving your loved one into.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you both say is that it's a team effort. You're going to bring different people together. Maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's a doctor, et cetera. You're not going to throw all your emotions out on the table. And you are going to create a context for that elder so they can understand, because they may not be able to understand the whole picture, but you give them enough context for them to understand this is a good next step for them.
Absolutely. Just not overwhelming them with a lot of information, and then of course, follow that conversation as it goes along. If they're asking more questions, quite naturally answer them, but don't try to overwhelm them. Well, this is why, like Rachel said, well, you need more care. Just, highlight the things that simplify your answers to the questions that they may have.
Okay.
Sorry.
And one of the things I've also noticed, you don't want it to be a drawn out process. You don't want it to be months constantly telling them, oh, you're going to move. So once you make that decision, you want to be prepared and try to move as quickly as possible so that anxiety and that fear doesn't build up in that loved one.
Right. They're in their rocking chair in their home thinking every day, oh my gosh, I'm moving in 6 months. Oh my gosh, I'm moving in 6 months. The anxiety is just rising like crazy.
Right.
Okay. Any stories from your own experience of seeing how a family dealt with this or how one of your teams dealt with this? Because I know you've managed teams that actually walk families through this. Anything comes to mind? And if not, we'll come back to it.
We were talking earlier about Rachel and I opened one of the communities together, and we talked about some of the different experiences we have. And we remember one where the daughter wasn't quite sure. And when she brought a mom, and the mom was walking around, and the daughter was quite shocked because the mom just sat down in bed and was like, just go to the house and get my things. And she said they had the conversation leading up to, and so she wasn't quite sure how her mom was going to accept it. And so that was one that was a little bit easier for the daughter. It may not have started out that way, but when her mom said, well, why don't you just go to the house and get my things? I'm ready, So.
And so that was kind of a story where also you've got to understand what it is that you want for your loved one. So if it's something that as far as socialization may be, or if it's safety, once you go to that community to make sure that they're going to be able to meet your needs, this was perfect because her mom was isolated pretty much at home. Yes. So when she got to the community, she had friends, she had people to meet with and eat lunch with. They had a whole little situation where we call the mean table.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Okay. Now, here's the next question. So what do I do to best prepare her for her move? Now, what I mean by this is not so much, what is all the work I have to do with whatever memory care I choose, or how do I set it up, but how do I prepare mom? Like, how do I get her ready? Are there things that I need to be doing with her so that when she comes, she's as ready as she can be?
We, again, solicit the team. You can talk to the doctor. Like Rachel said, don't drag it out over months, but while you are preparing, let them participate. So if there are things, what are things that you want to take to your new home, mom? Helping pick out things. Another approach would be most communities have like a day stay program. And so you take them to day stay several days. That way they're getting acclimated to the community. They're getting acclimated to the staff. The staff are getting to know them. And so it's just not like a ta-da, here you are in this new place. They're used to going to it, every day. That's something you definitely could do. Or perhaps even a respite where they spend the night overnight. And so again, it's like building that relationship, that trust, and so they feel comfortable in that environment.
Absolutely, I completely agree. You want to begin by having prior events before that long moving comes in, because that helps them to start getting familiar with the staff. They start building that trust with them. They start meeting new friends. So when you do make that move, you can say, hey, you remember Betty, this is the lady you've been playing cards with, or this is the lady that you do your evening walks with. So it's that whole building up to it so that they start feeling safe with the people that they're going to be moving in with.
Right.
Okay. That makes sense. You're trying to help it not just be a switching of environments, but a building real relationships with real people.
Right.
It helps to make a smooth transition with that move.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just getting them acclimated to their environment as well. It's not just a relationship, but also a new environment. It's like buying a new house for them, or maybe they had to transition from selling their house and moving in with you. They're familiar with their environment as well. That place seems familiar to them. And we know familiarity makes a person feel comfortable.
There's a lot of people who would say, well, the person has dementia, they're not going to learn anything, they're not going to remember anything. But I know as a gerontologist, we study how we have two parts of the brain, the hippocampus, which is where our memories of what happened are stored. And then we have our amygdala, where our memories of how we feel are stored. And so what we see is that people living with dementia, while they may not remember your name, they remember that when they came or what, they can remember that they felt good, that they laughed with someone, that they had a good time. I think that's what you're talking about, is keeping those life-giving moments of joy, building some of those up in their new home so that when they arrive there, they feel in their brain, oh, this is a happy place. We have ice cream here.
Exactly.
And they remember that. They like you said, they remember that feeling, and especially when it's with people. So it helps if you do some of those events with them. They can be like, hey, Mom, remember her? She was that nice, sweet lady that helped you. Help trick some of those.
Love that. Now, how should I set up her apartment, right? I mean, from a gerontologist perspective, that's really important. Like moving someone into a blank room, bad idea. So what would you say to families? How should you decorate their apartment? What should you put in their apartment? What are some of your tips on that?
So, well, I recommend that before anything happens, you come to that community where you're going to be at, kind of look out the layout, because you want that room to be as familiar as possible to what they have at home. So you want to make sure you can set that room up as close as possible, with the layout. You want to bring all familiar items with them, if it's blankets, their favorite pillows, how they hang their pictures on the wall or on their dresser. You want to make it just like they're going straight into their room once you get there. So I also recommend that you don't leave anything out. Don't leave boxes out. Don't leave things unhung. You want it to be completely completed by the time they get there to that building.
And I absolutely agree with Rachel. You could leave maybe some things like hanging up their clothes with you together. That helps. Again, they're coming and they see their belongings and they know that it's very familiar. I firmly believe setting up the room ahead of time helps, but we've seen situations where they have come in and go, how did all my things get here? Wait a minute, and maybe that's where it comes in. You're doing some activities together. Maybe you leave putting the pictures on the nightstand, or maybe you leave, well, here's your favorite blanket. I know you like it on your chair, so let's go ahead. So yes, there are things are there, but you're still making them, it goes back to what we just talked about, making them familiar with the environment and making them feel very comfortable to feel like it is their place, because they still are putting some things in place.
And you've got to remember, even though they may say, how did my stuff get here? That's still a comfort and a security for them, because it is their items that are there. So,
So what you're saying is make sure that it's got things that they will recognize, things that they will really be able to get in touch with, their pictures, their Afghan, their blankets, their chairs, have those things there. So it's not a hospital setting. It's not a nursing home setting. It's their home. And like you're saying, both give them opportunities to help decorate their home, but also don't make it feel unfinished. So it feels like, oh, what's going on here?
Right.
They can settle in.
Right.
Okay.
And I always recommend having something as far as on the door or either a memory box so that staff can walk by. If they're saying, well, where am I at? This is not mine. You can say, oh, who is this? Trigger a conversation. Oh, this must be my room because this is my stuff. Well, let's go in and check it out.
Okay. So I want to take a moment just to talk with our audience who is on with us live at the moment.
Okay.
Those who are recorded, who are watching this recorded again, please feel free to text this number with your questions, your comments, so that we can get your ideas for our next show. Those who are here today live, I really want to just speak to you for a moment. Your stories are really important. There's going to be families watching this 2 months from now, 4 months from now, and your stories really matter. So we'd love it if you put in the comments, how did you tell your mom it was time to move to memory care? Or if you're a professional, what have you seen work really well? Please put that in the comments. How did you help someone prepare for their move? Or, maybe you've witnessed your brother do it and it was successful. How did you set up the apartment for your loved one? Or how did you do it for a professional as a professional? We are giving away a book, just so you know, a really cool book by this guy. I'm going to put his face on screen. Dr. John Medina. He is super fun and he is super smart. And he wrote this book called Brain Rules for Aging Well. Sorry, Audra, you're behind the book, but it's an awesome book. I'm giving away at least one of these today, and I'll be randomly picking people who are putting in the comments their stories and their questions. So please go ahead and just take that leap and share a story in the comments because we'll read it on the show. So, okay, while folks are planning to do that, I'm going to ask the next question. What do I do when I drop her off at her new home? Like, it's the first day. Like, we've taken all her stuff. It's in the apartment. We said, Mom, it's time to go, right? And we drive over to there, and we get out. We walk in. What do I do? Do I run away? Like, bye, Mom, and just go? Like what do I do? I don't know.
So, this is kind of going to be that group effort. So the staff needs to know they're coming. Hopefully we've done our history as far as knowing what mom likes and what mom doesn't, or dad likes. It's got to be that day of involvement. We want to keep them busy. Like you said earlier, we want to keep that happy feeling, that excitement. I also tell people, consider what time of the day is best for your loved one. If you know they do very well in the morning, but in the evening they have behaviors, don't bring them in the evening. Bring them in the morning when they're happy and they have energy so they can enjoy that time, and that's what they're going to remember. If you have loved ones that they respond better to a different sibling, you may want to consider having that person come because they're going to respond better to them. They can keep them engaged while you're doing something else. So.
Exactly, just as she said, keep the team involved. Most times I know us as a team, ED and DRS, we'd have the family member call us. Okay, so say they're going to arrive at 10:30. Maybe mom felt really good at 9:00 and they wanted to come in, just call and give us ahead of time, kind of let us know how the disposition are. And so that we're able to be there to help the family member, because we know for them, it's emotional as well. They probably want to try to keep it together as much as possible and not be emotional. So if there are activities that we know that we could direct the resident to while helping the family member to calm down. But again, we talked earlier about maybe doing things in the room so that they can do that together. That again reassures the resident that, oh, they're okay. My family's still here with me. We've talked about different scenarios that we've done. Sometimes if you have a resident who is just flat out against it, again, it goes back to the therapeutic type situation. You're going to the spa for the day, or maybe you don't tell them it's their moving day. If you've had them come in for a day stay, you're just going today for a day stay. Again, it's wherever the resident is in the disease process. Sometimes goodbyes are very overwhelming. And so you don't want to make a big deal of, oh my God, I'm leaving you, or goodbye. I've seen a variety of different situations happen. I've seen daughters like really break down and just cry, and the mother is looking at them, and it's very overwhelming. And that's where your staff step in to kind of help with the resident. I don't know, giving them an activity to do, maybe have them move in around a meal time or a snack time so they can sit down and have that meal together. But you're balancing emotions on both sides, both for the family member and for the resident.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like it. So you're really looking at creating a environment socially for them when they first arrive, so that it doesn't feel awkward, where it feels more normal. Like you said, maybe you have a family member there and they're going to go eat together while you're taking care of some business, right? You're getting them involved in an activity like an art class, a music program, a gardening session, something they really enjoy, so that their first moments in the community is a social setting that feels good versus I'm a stranger in a strange land. I'm at a party and I know nobody. Instead, it feels normal because there's people who want them to be there, who are talking with them. They're not walking in a hallway going, I have no idea why I'm here and where I'm here for.
Right. Where they feel very overwhelmed. It's different than moving your child into college, you know, or somebody getting there. It's a totally different feeling. So you don't want them to be so very overwhelmed, and just focus on you're moving. Oh my God, Mom, I can't believe you're moving. Or them thinking, well, you said you were going to put me somewhere. Is this it? You know, you want to get them actively involved and engaged socially.
Mm.
And that's where all that prior work has built up to. So make that transition smoother for you. Like I said earlier, everything's in place. She knows people that she is familiar with. You just have to be able to say that, oh, okay, I'm going to step away now and feel comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And just know not every movement is going to be the perfect scenario. We laughed and talked about some situations where we had where it was, you know, somewhat traumatic. But, you know, the family had to do what they had to do to ensure that that loved one is safe. But again, that goes with the communication, the planning as much as you can. And it may not go off the way that you plan, but again, getting that resident in and engaged. And maybe engagement as simply as they don't want to be out and about, but they want to be in the room. So if you have a staff member that's in there talking to them about the things that's in their room, so they know that there's a connection, because they may be like, I don't want to be here, I want to leave, but I'm just not thrown in a room or put in a room and nobody's interacting with me. So it may take that one-on-one interaction as well.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, any stories that you've collected over the years of what really helped in this process? Anything you've seen either go really bad or really good?
Let's see. So our very first resident, I would even say that was a production. That was a theatrical production. And Rachel was very instrumental in that, as she went on the bus and I don't even think you introduced yourself as the nurse. No. I think they were taking him on an appointment. He had transportation. The family had to arrange transportation, and the family came and the family set up the room while they had him on the bus, and they kind of took the long route and saw different sites of the city, because he had been so very active in his community for a very long time and knew a lot of history of the city. And so when he got there, of course, they had lunch prepared, and Rachel and the marketer at that time had lunch with him. But when he went in his room, it was like, what is going on? Why is all my stuff here? What have you guys done? And so we dealt with the family, because he was not very happy with his sons. And so we kind of had a feeling it might be emotional, but he had a secretary that had been with him years, a long time, but he was in the middle of writing a book. And so they had even set up his typewriter. So we just planned it with the secretary, because he had that relationship. He was kind of upset with his kids. She was sat down and she was like, you know, we haven't done our thing today about the book that you're writing. And so she went to the typewriter and started taking notes, and that just calmed the whole situation. And so we really had to role play, because in our mind, we thought, oh, he's going to see his things. The children were thinking he would be okay with that. But he was like, how did my stuff get here? Hold on, wait a minute, you know.
But it's really funny too, because he made rapport with the maintenance director at that time. And so whenever something was wrong, that's who he went to. So it was just that connection he made with the staff right away.
Because the maintenance director is the one who drove the bus.
Oh, okay.
He really had that connection with him. And he did with you as well, because you were on the bus with him. So yeah.
That makes me think of how important it is as if I'm a family member, for me to invest a little bit of time up front telling the stories of my father or my mother to the team. Most memory care communities have some sort of process for gathering that, and it's very easy to kind of gloss over it, just answer a few questions and move on, because maybe it's overwhelming with the amount of paperwork or something. But it's so important to give the family as many, or give the memory care community as many details. He's writing a book. He likes to type. He's got a secretary. Like, all that information is critical to being able to help them adjust to their new home quickly.
And that was something we did talk about, because they had identified just that his secretary and how long she had been with him, that she played a very important role in that visit. She was there on site, and that worked out perfectly because he wouldn't place his anger, if you will, toward her. We were able to let her go in and interact with him and just talk about the book and stuff. And so you're right, it is critical to have those conversations, to try to gather as much information as possible. Like I said, that was truly a production, because we talked about that probably the week leading up to how we think it's going to work, up until, like I said, they called to say how he was that morning. Was he doing good that morning? He had his coffee, he was fine, because not all mornings it was like that for him.
And just to kind of tell you an additional story, it's very important, just the things you don't think are important, to let the staff know. We had a resident that kept trying to get out. She said she was going to go home. Just for the simple fact that I knew her husband was a pilot. We sat outside and the planes flew over, and we literally talked for about 45 minutes and calmed her down, because she's telling me about her husband and him flying. She went back inside. That was it.
Wow.
Just that simple.
Wow. That's powerful. And if anybody's watching today, you take one thing away, take away having those details about someone's life story and educating the team that's taking care of that loved one can make all the difference in the world. Because what Rachel just said is like, she couldn't have done that if she didn't know that the husband pilot, etc. Like, she couldn't have made that connection. It's really important.
It's very important.
Now, here's the situation. Many times across America, an elder living with dementia has every right to use the telephone. And so they will go to the front desk or in their room, and they'll call their family and maybe be in a lot of anxiety. They may also be in a very difficult situation. Maybe they are outside because they did not want to go in, and the staff who took them on a walk or something can't get them back in the door because they're just so determined to go home. So that staff member calls a family member, because they know that there's a special relationship between oldest son and this, father or whatever. And so the son gets a call. He's at work. He's busy. He's doing his stuff. And it's like, your dad needs to talk to you. He's in this situation. He's super anxious. He doesn't know what to do. And we've tried everything. Can you talk to him? Bam. And the son's like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to say to my dad? What do you coach family? Obviously, we hope that call doesn't come very often, but the reality is it will come at least once for most families. What should a family do when they get that call and dad's, take me home, I need to go home right now, right? What do you say?
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, as much information as possible. Maybe the resident is having that anxiety going on. So if you have a staff that is dealing with them, trying to talk to them, and maybe the nurse or someone else can make a phone call to the loved one first to say, hey, this is what we have going on, instead of just, bam, here's the phone, hand the phone to the resident, and just say, my recommendation is, don't feed into the scenario. Don't get on the phone and go, Dad, why are you acting like that? Just, hey, Dad, how you doing? Or talk to him, what have you done today? Or what's for dinner? Or talk about things instead of focusing on the behaviors or the reactions that he's having at that time. Because that's feeding into the scenario. So if you're just kind of talking about things, just how you doing, it's probably just hearing the son's voice. Maybe that's the comfort to know, oh, wow, I'm talking to my son. So hopefully we can get some background and have time to talk to a family. I recently was at a community, and I have to tell you, a resident had gone out on the walking path. And it was really weird. I think the door was released, but it was on the walk path, and he was in the gate. Well, when he turned to come back in, the door wouldn't unlock. And the daughter called. I actually was working the front desk that day and happened to answer the phone. And she was like, hey, my dad is locked outside. So immediately at first I panicked, because I thought, if he's locked outside, he's outside the community. And it was funny because she said I don't normally answer the phone because I'm at work. But I just thought he called from his cell phone, which thank God he had a cell phone. But she was like, this is odd that dad is calling me. I know that's kind of not the same anxiety, but I'm just talking about sometimes we'll tell family members, if the resident is persistently calling, maybe not answer the phone, because if there's something wrong, us as a community, we would be notifying you, ahead of time. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. Just to be able to, because we talked earlier about the relationship, right? When they move in, we're still getting to know them and they're still getting to know us. The more information we have, the better it is. And so sometimes if the family member always answers the phone, that becomes their comfort per se. Like, I know if I do this, I call my family member, they're going to answer the phone. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we again, just have to get to know them, have to get to know the things that they like. We need to help educate the family member as well as far as their adjustments to moving in, or maybe they are experiencing some sundowning, and this is what occurs when this happens. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of all over.
No, that's right. I think what you're saying, though, is that if as a family member, I'm answering the phone every time they call, every hour they call me, and I'm just getting frustrated with this, I need to stop answering the phone for a bit, because the team is trying to help that person go to an activity, build a friendship with someone, watch a movie with someone. But they're not going to do that if every time they call, family picks up and we try to comfort them, because then we become their crutch or their source of strength.
Right.
Okay. Rachel, what about you? What are some of your thoughts on this question?
So I always try to tell the families to be prepared and expect that this may possibly happen. Telling them that, and they'll know it could happen a month from now, or it may happen every day. It kind of helps them to be able to be rational when they call. And so instead of jumping to conclusions or saying, what's wrong with you, or why are you acting like this, or remember this, it helps them to be able to talk through it and validate their loved one's feelings. Yes, I know, but remember, you're safe. I've had people say, I'm at work, I get off at this time, so I'll give you a call back. Just wait for a few minutes, I'll call you back. It's just being able to control that situation when that family member calls, so that you can kind of de-escalate them some as well.
Okay. Now, last question. What should I do during our first visit? So I'm visiting my mom for the first time. Maybe I stayed away for a week or two just because I needed a break, right? I've been caring for her at home. I can finally take a date night with my husband. I can finally get a sleep in, right? Like whatever it is. What do I do when I first come and visit that first time, so that it doesn't just blow up in my face and mom's mad at me and it's just terrible? Like, what do I do?
So to me, that first visit, I don't recommend it be a long visit. I think it should be a short visit. I recommend that you don't come in being very critical. It's going to be very positive. Everything needs to be positive. Show me what you've done, Mom. Let's go meet this person. Let's go have lunch together. Let's go sit in your room and let's look at stuff. Nothing negative. Try to redirect them if they start getting, where have you been? Well, I had to go do this, or I've been working, or we went on vacation. Just stay very positive. Keep redirecting them so that this visit does not turn into that negative, take me out of here right now. So
maybe an activity that they can do together, whether it's in the room and you're, going through their items, or, we talked earlier about blankets or pictures. Sometimes residents pack stuff up. So maybe, hey, where's the picture of so-and-so? Don't overwhelm them with whatever you've been doing. Well, what is the food like? Whatever. Just kind of walk through the community together and let that conversation happen naturally. See how they are in their environment. We were talking about our first resident that we moved in. This was something that I learned early on, is that the first resident that moved in, again, I told you the secretary was involved and that kind of helped us. Well, the first time the family visited, the dad just read them the riot act. He read the sons the riot act. And so we talked about, for future visits, not having the visits in the room, because that was controlling the situation. The resident felt in control and could be that way. And so they did their visits in the common areas. Dad never went off on them. He never read the riot act to them, because I'm sure in his mind out in public, he didn't want to be like that. And that helped that visit tremendously, because the kids, you know, of course they feel guilty and they just want to know, did we make the right decision? They know that they did. We often know that when family members get a little rest, like you said, or they get to have their first date night, then they start maybe second guessing and saying, you know what, I can do this. Maybe they should come back home. And so, like Rachel said, keep it as positive. And then another thing for me is, I don't like the big goodbyes. You know, don't make a big to do about, well, I'm leaving now, you know, just let it happen naturally. You know, don't end it, well, bye, Mom. Maybe just, you know, this has been a really great visit. I'll be back to see you. Or if maybe you're concerned about how am I going to leave, just say, I need to go to the restroom, and I'm going to go talk to the executive director or somebody for a second. Have the staff alert. So or maybe time you're visiting around, if Mom loves bingo and bingo is Wednesday at 2:00 and my visit is 1, Mom, guess what? Bingo is coming. Let's walk to the place where they play bingo. And so you're not having those big goodbyes, you know, hopefully not to trigger any anxiety in the resident.
So I hear you partly saying that you need to create a great visit. It's not going to be a visit about the fact that they moved. You're going to make sure the whole visit is about something positive. We're eating together. Right. We're meeting new friends together. You're really trying to shift the focus of the visit on, I'm here for the first time. It's been 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, how are you liking things? No, it needs to be getting our mind on something else, getting our mind on the relationships around us, helping. As a family member, I begin to see myself as part of my role in visiting is to help my mom or dad connect with the other residents in the community and to connect with the opportunities to garden or be with pets or whatever's going on. I'm actually playing a role in helping them build their new second family. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. And you're building also on the communication that you received the time from when they moved in until your first visit. What have you learned? What have they cultivated? It's like, Mom seems to really be enjoying this. So you could just build and focus on that. Again, not about the move, just the things that they're enjoying, you know.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I also recommend families, if the loved one is saying stuff, make sure that you keep a note of that so that you can take that back to the staff, because it could be very easy things for the staff to put interventions in place to keep them happy where they are. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been very helpful. I know we've just scratched the surface. So if you're watching and you want to go deeper in any of these areas, please text #answers to that phone number on the screen, 360-526-6201, because in upcoming episodes, we can go deeper in areas that you really want to address in an even deeper way. Thank you both. I love how practical you both are. You don't just go off in theory, but you get really practical. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Stay with me for just a moment.
Okay.